I call this meeting to order on April 11th, 2022 for the Newman Crows Landing Unified School District. Public communication, agenda and non-agenda items. Any person wishing to comment on an agenda and non-agenda item may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes. California law prohibits the school board from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency. I didn't have to read that, really. Okay, may I please have you stand for the salute? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I have 2 actions to report out of closed session. In a unanimous vote, moved by Board Member Paul Wallace, seconded by Board Member Rosalie Hurst, the board voted to approve a settlement agreement resolving all claims in OAH case number 202202573. Second action, our evaluation of Mr. Sean Posey for the school year 2021 to 2022 was found to be satisfactory. We, the school board of the Newman Crows Landing Unified School District, found that in this challenging year that has been ever changing, Mr. Posey was up to the challenge and showed it throughout the year. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
One.
Oh, did I?
Forgot to mention something.
Do we need to vote for that right here?
No, we were going to ask that we pull, which one was it? The BP 61 or AR 6112
Oh,
from the consent calendar for the second reading, first reading, second reading, item E. So
Item
if we do, we're pulling it, we'll bring it back at a future date. There are some
Oh.
formatting mistakes in there that our new system created. So if we can just, I just need a motion to do that.
do you need to see?
It sounds like the motion would be to move to approve with removal, move to approve the published agenda with the removal of item E.
May I have a second?
Well, specifically the AR 6112 out of item E, because it contains a couple other that we will.
Oh, that's C. That's
Give me those numbers again.
AR 6122.
61112.
6112. And that's C.
C.
And then we've got E. It says second reading approval of AR and BP 3513.3 tobacco-free schools and AR 6112. But they've already been, that second part has already been.
Because we
crossed
were
out.
going to ask for a motion to do that. Sorry about
So
that.
the motion as I have it now is to move to approve with the removal of AR 6112 from item C.
Yes,
Mhm.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, this is what the day's going like.
Tim, did I hear you second that?
Yes. May I have the approval of may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Didn't we just do that?
I thought we had to do
Now
it
you need
again.
a vote.
No, yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see, would you like to give your student report, please?
So this past month has been pretty eventful at OHS. So sports per usual have been doing really great. The boys volleyball team won against Gustine at their away game. And there was actually like a last minute zoo. So just imagine the Gustine gym, the whole away side full of a bunch of OHS students with a bunch of purple and gold pom-poms, and the other side, like 1 or 2 parents. It was a little bit sad, but it was really cool. We won, so that was cool as well. And so our baseball and softball teams are both first in their league. I know the baseball team is tied with 2 other schools, and I'm not sure about the softball team, but they're both first. So that's really cool. The tennis team is also in league, as well as a few of our track people. So sports have been doing really great. Our clubs have been doing great as well, especially with the fact that it's the end of the year and students are kind of like getting tired and busy with AP studying. So, but they're still going really strong. So the Anime Club, the Women's Organization for Women's Empowerment, the Warriors Organization for Women's Empowerment, and NAMI have had a bunch of meetings. The STEM Club is having a lot of meetings, especially for voting in new officers for the next school year. And so they've done a lot of activities as well. There was a movie night that was hosted by the WOWY Club, and the NAMI Club has been preparing for upcoming activities like their egg hunt, yoga activities, and a crisis line information for people who are not quite comfortable staying at home, especially with the fact that spring break begins on Friday, just so they have some form of communication during the whole week that we're off from school. So Student Council actually hosted 2 things this past month. The first one was the Warrior Showcase, where different clubs, sports, and groups showed off what their club or like group does for students coming into Oristemba for them to see what's going on our campus and to be interested. The other event was the teacher versus student volleyball game, which went really well. The students won, obviously. And the cool thing was that after the game was over, students and teachers kept playing. Like everybody left, but the students and teachers just kept playing. There's people playing on the football field. There's just people hanging out. And the environment was really nice. A teacher told me, Mr. Powell, he told me that it felt like he was teaching, but like, it felt like when he was teaching over 20 years ago. He just said that the environment just felt like everything was back to normal, especially, you know, after COVID. It was really nice too. I was there. It was really good. The environment was really nice. And so seniors have been preparing for a pretty eventful month as well. So most seniors have already received their cap and gowns. Some have gotten their class rings and other merchandise. They're also preparing for prom, which will be hosted at the Westside Theater this year. And the theme is Enchantment Under the Sea, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And students have already chosen their room accommodations for their senior trip. So they do have a lot to look forward to in May and the rest of this month. So AP testing, they're coming up, and students have been pretty busy preparing and trying to study, as well as some finals that are coming up as well. And also the senior interviews started today. It went really well. The first person to interview, actually, they did not do any of their slides, but they still passed with how charismatic they were. So it's kind of showing the ranges in our students. I am not supporting this person at all. They did not do their slides. They are my friend. I told them to do their slides. They did not do them, but they still passed, and it was really good. I mean, I applause, but you know, but this Friday, it is spring break. We're going out for like an entire week, which I know all the students are really looking forward to that. I just see people in their classes falling asleep, and you know, they're doing their best. And then after spring break, we see our teachers 11 more times before the school year ends. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So overall, the campus has been pretty lively as usual and will continue to be busy, especially with all the exams coming up. And so thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Alexa? Thank you very much. Do you realize you're not going to be doing this for much longer? Okay. We have the Beyond the Bell update.
Yes, we have Allison Cassidy, our Director of After School Programs, which we call Beyond the Bell because it's before school after school programs. It's here to kind of
Correct.
an update on what we're doing and what the future holds and how our operations work.
Beautiful. And there we have it. So I've been with you this is my 6th month. I came at the end of September, and I came with after school program experience, and got here, and it was post-COVID, and there wasn't a director and there wasn't a lot of kids, and so much had changed. So we agreed as a group of employees to kind of rebrand, kind of change it, give it a new name rather than just after school program, make it kind of make it electrified a little bit and make sure we encompass the before school programs that Newman Crow's Landing is blessed to have. So this is kind of a review of all of that for you. And I'll answer any questions at the end. Okay. Do I do it or do you do it? I do it. Okay. So this is the fine print and I made it really, really basic. The grant itself is called the Asus Grant. So many acronyms. It stands for After School Education and Safety. And it was voter approved and funded in 2002. It was employed or informed by a report that came out several years prior called the America After 3 p.m. report. The first George Bush had commissioned this report to be done to find out what on earth is happening to kids after the bell rings. The latchkey concept when I was a kid a long time ago. And it showed a bunch of scary stuff. So that was the genesis of original after school funding, was to give kids a safe place to be. And they were loved and supported and usually given a snack. And at the beginning of after school funding, it was basically school districts or PAL or your Parks and Rec. Here's a bunch of money, just go keep kids safe. Don't let them be on the streets, right? That's changed a lot over the years, but the funding hasn't changed much. We got our first increase to all the funding 3 years ago since the inception. So I just wanted to make sure that you all understood about this America After 3 report, which showed data on drug use and crime and teen pregnancy and lack of connectedness, or even being a victim of a crime. So that was kind of the beginning of it all. And then to kind of drill all the way down to California for you, California is by far, by double, the largest after-school program funding state in the United States. It's a big priority here, in part cemented because of our former governor, Schwarzenegger. He was a huge supporter and he was vocal and he was popular and he's a movie star. So after-school program, we're kind of locked in. So the last line there is just to make sure you know, it was basically to make sure that there was enriching stuff for students to do after the bell rings. Again, I won't read this all to you, but there's some basic numbers about the sites and how many they support. And the way that I worded each of those little squares was Bonita, for example, typically serves 100. Well, now we're post-COVID and it's weird. And there's only about half the staff, right? When I came in September, we were down 14 or 15. We're now down, I think, only 7 as of today. So we've hired a few, but we still can't serve all the students we're granted to serve, and then we want to serve until I can fill those spots. So by the way, anybody got a niece, got a nephew, have them call me. So the bottom right square in there, I wanted to mention that there is at each of the sites, there is a before school program, and they serve between 10 to 20 to 50 students every single morning as well, but those numbers aren't included in the other colored boxes. And the basic day in the life is we get them, we take attendance, we make sure we've got everybody we're supposed to have, we call on anybody who didn't show, we call parents every day. We feed them a little bit, they get their wiggles out a little bit, and then we take them by grade level into classrooms to do the academic window of after school. And we do it in that order so that they'll stay they'll get through that for the fun stuff later. And that's when the dance or the American Idol competition or the dodgeball tournament, that's when those things happen. And then at 5:30, whoever still remains with us, then we all come together and everybody does group stuff until mom comes and picks up. This is the number of staff that we had the month that I started. Mr. Posey came to this event. It was a Saturday training right after like a month after I got here. And that's not everybody, but it was a Saturday. I couldn't make everybody come, but a number of people came. And the slide says I'm down 6 now. I think today I realized I'm down 7, but again, anybody has a niece or a nephew or a neighbor, have them call. At that event on that Saturday, this was our primary goal. There wasn't a mission statement that was specific to after school or before school programs. So this was 30 people, 20 people, broken down into small groups that ultimately came to this conclusion. It's a little meaty, but this is people who picked $100 words that mattered a lot to them and wanted to make sure that they were in there. This is ultimately a unanimous vote of the individuals that were present about what our priorities need to be. And I think the underlying sentiment to this is leading with love. After school programs are super blessed. We're in an incredibly luxurious position because the ratio that we have to serve is 20-1 or less. Teachers have to serve a lot more than that all day in a classroom. We get them for 3.5 hours and it's 20-1. And as the clock ticks, it's then 18-1 and then it's 15-1. So those relationships, those bonds are very, very real. I'm not going to tear up right now, but it's a real thing. And I can see it every single day. So that's the motivation. This is framed in each of the programs that we run. These are the ways that we are held accountable. These are the 12 quality standards that we are judged on that will be part of a federal audit, which has now been put off till 23. Praise the Lord. So I won't go through them, but these are on the left are the 6 things that I tell each of the program staff that serve youth directly. Those are the things that we need to see. We don't do coloring pages. We don't do free play on the monkey bars. That's easy. We do that as filler, as transition. This is what we do. Active and engaged learning, youth leadership with a voice. We just finished elections at all the programs, so they all have, Von Renner's is the best, by the way, Danny. I don't know if you saw those posters, those election posters, but I told all of them they can call the leadership positions anything they want. So Von Renner chose, there's like Minister of Morals, Dean of Discipline, whatever. And so the kids all ran, they gave little speeches, they hung up these posters that were super incredibly creative posters like run, don't walk to vote for Mark, just neat, clever stuff. Then they had winners, they had votes, they had winners, and then they had to come up, and the kids who didn't win, that was an experience too. That's all part of what we do, right? So the 6 on the left are what program leaders are. That's how I evaluate them. The 6 on the right is how Kim will evaluate me. The 6 on the right are my job, to make sure that I recruit good folks and keep them and train them and make sure there's a mission statement and so on. I won't read it, but that's how I get evaluated. A couple things to report out to you specifically about COVID, namely middle schools. Middle schools across the United States, attendance has plummeted and we cannot dial it up fast enough. And here's exactly what happened. There's no middle schoolers in the room, right? Okay. The reason you go to middle school after school is because your mom makes you. That's why, because otherwise it's lame. Because you want to go home and play video games with your friends. Well, then COVID happened. And parents who thought, well, she can't go home after school, she's only in 7th grade. They went, well, she's kind of done it for 2 years and hasn't been in school. And she's begging me not to send her. So I'm not going to send her. So to give you an idea, YOLO is granted for 155 students a day. Today we had 21. Our grants are attendance-based. I have to get this up. So we did 2 recruiting events on campus at YOLO. Put up the tent and had music and spinny wheel and prizes stuff and food. And basically put up 2 big whiteboards. And on one was a list of things that the grownups that work in the program thought the kids might like, but we don't already have. And then the whiteboard on the right was a hanging pen, and you could write down whatever you might want to do that might not be on our lame list because we're grownups or grandparents or whatever. So here's the result. Video gaming tournaments, not video games, not just playing a video game, but these bracketed tournaments that gaming people like your superintendent knows about. Yeah, his son. So I didn't know much. I'm old as dirt, right? So I had to ask around, and it turns out his son is super that guy. And you need that guy. So we put a word out. We have a teacher now, a YOLO teacher who's kind of also a gaming enthusiast. And so we hired him, and he's going to help us do these bracketed tournaments. That was number 1. Number 2 was another thing old lady did not know, escape room club. It's like a thing. And so for those of you uninitiated, you're with a team, so it's kind of collaborative. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but basically you get a mystery and you go into a space and you go solve it together. This is my ish. So that's number 2. So we're going to do that. And number 3, well, was skateboarding, but don't tell Carolyn, I just said that, but it was skateboarding, which we can't do. So I think we're going to do skateboard building. And the recruiting piece was, what would we have to do for you to come? We want you to come every day. And so one of the things that also was important to the middle schoolers is I don't have to come 5 days a week. Can I come like only on the Monday, Friday gaming tournament day? So we're kind of tweaking all of middle right now to make that work for them. And as I said earlier, the attendance at elementaries is still low, not low. Von Renner today, for example, they're granted for 142, I think, and they probably had 110. So we're still in the neighborhood. And I believe I'm expecting one more waiver, I hope, for attendance for this semester, but it still hasn't come from the governor yet. And that means we'll be free. We'll be not free. We'll be funded and won't have to return anything until the fall. And that's when it'll start getting dicey. So that's when the middle has to be like lifted up. So I hope that's the case. I think we can expect that. Just some pictures. One of the things on the standards was, of course, engaged in active learning. And this is the fire department last week and on a magnetic building tournament and the elections. And it's really good stuff, you guys. I can't wait to have you come out and tour with us. I want to pick one site each year, different, and have you tour and have the students be the tour guides and show you like a day in the life of my program. So I'm working on that. Some basics, what I'm doing to wrap up this year. We're going to open into after school registration in person. It'll open that night, which is May 11th. We're going to advertise it all over. And I just put posters here on the wall, on the door here at the McConnell Center. We're going to open it in person and then we'll continue it online and in person at the sites. And as I've mentioned, the recruiting, I would like to invite everyone on the board to April 29th, 2 Fridays from now, is the first annual after-school program partnering with the city of Newman. We're doing a big Arbor Day event at Pioneer Park. We'll even give you a hot dog. Right, Carolyn? Can we? Yeah, so I can send you the invite, but it would be really great if you guys came out. Oh, beautiful. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that's all just kind of housekeeping stuff that we're doing. The tour I mentioned is the bottom right corner, and I will let you know about that. I got to get some more staff so I can serve the number of kids that we need. This is a few testimonials. We have really, really grateful parents. Their children feel safe. They don't have to worry. It's a comfortable place where students feel safe. I mean, I think the little phrase sense of belonging is what matters the most to me, right? Telling you about the dog that they just got or the dog that they just lost, you know, those are special things. So I just wanted you to know there's some love out there from parents. And there we are. Any questions I can answer for you? It is.
I hope the students, just reading the testimonials, can do that to encourage others to come.
Oh, yeah, I agree. You know what, a neat thing I should have mentioned? We just did interviews of high school students because we're bringing on high school kids.
Oh,
And I don't know, I didn't bring the number, but we interviewed 26 Oristimba students. And probably 12 of them. The first question was, why do you want this job? And 12 of them, let's say, said, because I was in after school program and I absolutely loved it. And I wanted to be that like camp counselor kind of thing. So that made me feel great. Like, oh, they felt so much love. They felt good about it. So yeah. 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 Well, I haven't done the hiring piece yet. We did the interviews, but as far as reaching out to them, we're going to do that tomorrow.
There was and I don't know if you're prepared. I didn't send this to you. It's you need to do research. I totally don't mean to put you on the spot. There was a question that came up at the LCAP meeting at the table I was sitting at that We're down to only having a couple of high school tutors for the after-school program. And I didn't know if that's just because you hadn't hired yet, or if you're limited by
Oh.
budget, or if you're.
No, I don't think we'd be limited by budget. I think I would go to these guys and say, if there was more of a need, then we got to dial that up. I know that certainly during COVID, there haven't been high school kids, and there were no high school kids when I arrived with you. And so this is all basically for next year.
So you're putting back in what they're missing now.
Copy, yeah.
What's the numbers you're hiring?
For the two large, the YOLO and Von Renner, they get 4 high school students each, and they'll be with us for 2.5 hours each day, which is it's usually only been 1 hour. And then the other 3 programs will get 3 high school kids for 2.5 hours a day. So they get kind of support at the beginning, then all the academic stuff, and then the enrichment piece too. So I'm excited. It's a fun first job.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
I'll say this about the Beyond the Bell program is, and I think Mrs. Bentcourt, jump in and interrupt me anytime you wish. I think we've gone to them half a dozen times this year with the next thing. You know, it started as an intervention. We're going to provide that targeted intervention to some kids after school, so they're getting quality for that. You know, not just latchkey, not just here, do whatever. It's a structured program. Then it became the hour of elective that we just wrapped up, I believe. So we have that. You know, they did the hour of elective and they took that on. And then it was before the bell, and they took that on. And we just can't thank the program enough for always being there and adapting to what our students have needed and what the district's needed from them. And it's been a great year. I've toured the sites a few times. I was at a site. I see exhausted kids who've been in education now for maybe 10 hours in a day, or whatever. And they're doing something, and it's a mind type of object, you're kind of working on a puzzle, and they hear the radio, their name over the radio, that their parents are to pick them up. And the kid runs out and tells the mom 15 more minutes and runs back in. And you're like, wow, I would have gone, whew, I'm out, guys. But, they're really, you can tell they have to be there maybe at the elementary, but you can tell they want to be there too. And it's just always a great way to end the day is to walk through one of the programs. It is. So thank you for what you've done.
And again, this is a totally unprepared question. I don't know if you want to handle it, Mr. Poe, or, yeah. Do we have a system, a culture for our teachers to be able to nominate, recommend, maybe it's more common in ASP programs that are more impacted, but, a way for a teacher to say, Johnny's struggling in my class. How about we get him into after school program?
It could certainly be part of any type of an SST or even a SARB panel or a SART panel for attendance as well. But we certainly could do that. Did you want to?
There's a lot of informal discussions between the teachers. And so, for example, if a teacher has a student that they know is an ASP, and they'll talk to the leader and say, hey, there's really struggling with getting their homework done. Can you assist with that? There's not a formal academic referral process. There's always times when at an SST, a principal might make a recommendation. We have this homework club. They seem to be getting, or homework hour, and they can make a recommendation that they stay for ASP.
Yeah.
And with the ELOP coming up, there's going to be a lot more opportunities to provide interventions and enrichment for students with that funding.
Yeah.
So it's usually something that happens at the site between the teachers and the leaders. They form these relationships where they get to know each other and know, and then they'll talk to them about the kids.
Yeah, because that'd be something I'd want to support if we had the opportunity to.
I'd like to make a statement. I, of course, grandparent babysitting on my various grandkids, and some are hers.
Those are great. Those are great.
And picked up my grandson, 3rd grade, last week in an after-school program in Mountain House up by Tracy. And they were doing a scavenger hunt, but with cell phones. I don't know how many kids here have cell phones in the 3rd grade, but they were going around finding QR codes on sides of buildings or on a bench and scanning them. And then that gets a clue to the next location for a QR code. But also there's an academic component because they have to get all these, math problem bits and pieces or history problem or whatever. So I was shocked, when I was in the third grade, I was throwing rocks at other kids. And, these kids are doing QR codes, so just, just an observation.
I know, I believe this year, the service credit wasn't needed, the community support that they use for their portfolios. Many students did, but that would be a way of possibly getting them their service credit, but at the same time exciting them about helping someone, maybe not just academics, but meeting with them and and possibly once they get there, sometimes it's like, oh, got to do it. But if you build up a love and a rapport, you don't want to leave after. You want to stay to the end. Like you said, you get to know the students and the teachers. So, thank you.
Thank you.
First reading of BP 5141.5 mental health, AR 5148.2 before and after school, AR and BP 3513.3 tobacco free schools, BP 5127 graduation ceremonies and activities, BP 5141.7 sun safety, BP 5141.52 suicide prevention, and BP 6112 school day. So we've got some readings to do. I was surprised about the sun safety. That didn't hit my brain at first when I was reading parts of it. Honestly. Okay, consent calendar. The consent calendar items are routine in nature and usually do not require board discussion. Individual items may be removed by board members and presented for discussion and separate action. The consent calendar will be adopted by a roll call vote. May I have a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar as published. I'll second that.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye, 5-0. Public hearing on resolution number 21-22/09 to adopt district developer fee justification study. Public hearing opened up at 7:42. Oh, 6:42, sorry. I'm an hour. Do we have anyone that would like to speak to that? Developer fee?
If there's none, you can close it.
You can close it. I don't have to wait a whole minute. Okay. Close 6:42 and a half.
There we go.
43. Approve resolution number 21-22/09, increasing statutory fees on residential, commercial, and industrial development projects. May I have a motion?
I think Carolyn was going to, Ms. Mendoza was going to provide some
Oh.
information on this.
Yeah, I wanted to just summarize the
The fees?
study. The purpose of the justification study is to evaluate the relationship between the amount of fees that can be charged to the use of the fees. The state has some very definite amounts that we have to use as far as predicting the cost of facility construction. And so developer fees don't pay the entire they don't pay the entire cost, but they want them to come close to paying 50%, and then the state puts the other 50% for new construction. So the finding of this new study was that we are justified to impose level 1 fees. We are not eligible right now to go any higher than that because we don't have the severe need. It was found that the district TK5 and 912 enrollments are over capacity standards. And when it says that, it doesn't take into account that we do have classrooms that are being used for other purposes that we could convert back into classrooms. So anything that's used as a library or a STEAM lab or things like that, are not counted in toward the eligibility. So the inventory is based on rooms that are utilized for only instruction. So if a room is say strictly used for after-school program, that's not included as one of the classrooms. So that's why it's saying that we're over capacity. There are proposed 603 additional single-family homes in the next 5 years. That does include the Stir project. The generation rate they determined would be 0.58 per household, which would generate about 350 additional students through that development. However long that takes, it could be in the next 5 years, it could take a little bit longer. So we're expecting 169 K-5 students, 84 middle school students, and 97 high school students. And so it analyzes the projected construction costs, including site development costs, to determine the total estimated cost to house this number of students. And so the estimated cost comes out to about just under $11 million. And then that number is divided by the number of square feet they're projecting, and they're projecting just under 1.2 million square feet. And that's based on an average. So these are all just projection numbers. So they're looking at $9.22 per square foot that we will be short. So with all of that, we do meet the requirements to levy the level 1 fees, which will be $4.79 per square foot.
Did I read that right, Mrs. Mendoza? We're looking to be short $9 and change, and we're gonna backfill that with $4 and change. We're still gonna be out $4 and change.
Yeah. But the other part we can apply for new construction funding, which pays 50%.
Okay, so that is not including the new construction
Right.
fees yet. So we're roughly coming out pretty close to you.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I had read that opposite, so thank you for clarifying.
May I have a motion to approve number 21-22/09?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Bless you. Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Passes 5-0. Accept financial and performance audits building fund, Measure P. Mrs. Mendoza.
Included in your packet was the audit report for Measure P. This is, we're getting down to the end of those funds, and then it'll transition to the Measure X funds. What they look for is, how do we spend our money on that last year? We used it to finish up the YOLO construction. There wasn't a lot of activity because that had pretty much been fully expended before. And so we have about $1.2 million remaining in the Measure P fund that will transition into the Measure X funds. And there were no findings. What they look for is, what were the expenditures appropriate under the language for Measure P? And there were no findings.
May I have a motion to accept financial and performance audits building fund, Measure P?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Passes 5-0. Approve contract renewal for audit services to Edie Bailey for 2021-2022 through 2023-2024. And
This Bailey is now the audit firm that we use. It was formerly Babernick, Trine, and Day out of Fresno. They bought, Bailey bought them out. We've used them for as long as I've been here. So, and we have a good relationship with our auditors. They come in, they're very thorough. They're very good to work with as far as communicating and having the staff. Their staff is really responsive to when there are issues that they really have walked us through a lot. So I would recommend that we continue that partnership.
Okay, may I have a motion to accept this, to accept contract renewal for audit services?
I'll make that.
A second?
I second.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. It's passed 5-0. Accept CSEA initial sunshine proposal to NCLUSD for the 2022, 2023 reopener negotiation.
In your backup, I provided on behalf of CSEA a copy of their initial sunshine proposal. We have Mr. Mark Crinklaw and Pam Freitas here with CSEA with us this evening here. But I have provided that sunshine proposal to you for your consideration.
May I have a motion to accept the CSEA initial sunshine proposal?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Passed 5-0. Accept NCLTA initial sunshine proposal for the Newman Crows Landing Unified School District for the 22-23 successor negotiations. Same.
Similar to item number 6, item number 7 is in your backup there, and that's provided to you verbatim from NCLTA.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Accept the Williams Act Quarterly Report, UCP, for quarter 1. It was, right, everything's in
No complaints to report.
That's one, running a tight ship. Everything works. Okay, may I have a motion to accept the Williams Act?
I'll make the motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Approve Board Resolution 21-22/10 for Administrative Professionals Day. I don't need to read it. Okay. A motion, please.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Approve Board Resolution 21-22/11 for the Day of the Teacher. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Approve Board Resolution 21-22/12 for Day of the Nurse. May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Wallace? Mrs. Hurst? You just got married. Mrs. Hurst? Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Approve Board Resolution 21-22/13 for Classified Employees Appreciation Week. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
May I have a second? Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. Approve Board Resolution 21-22/14 for non-reelected of employee number 35711.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Bizarre?
Aye.
Mrs. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
And Mrs. Conforti votes aye. 5-0. Approve NCLUSD initial sunshine proposal to CSEA, chapter number 551 for the 2022-23 reopener negotiations. Same as we have all the paperwork. Is there, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Bizarre. Mrs. Hurst.
Aye.
Mr. Snodderly.
Aye.
Mr. Wallace.
Aye.
Mrs. Conforti votes aye. All those recognitions, I know we do it real quickly, but we really thank all of you for everything that you've done for us. Our school wouldn't run as well as it does. Okay. Future agenda items, recognition of the student body board member. So, yes, it'll be an easy one. Honor retirees, which we have, and we hate to see them go. But now we have Mr. Posey's superintendent report.
Thank you. Well, I've got to do a job walk, I think it was last week, for the pool. It's fully funded, or it's funded now. We got the funds in, and we should actually, I hear the fence going up Friday for demo to start Monday, a week from today. So we're real excited. The subcontractors are all, quote, ready to go. The contractor is excited to get going. Just, I think the sunrise on the first day he can. So we'll get that going. We've got a great plan on maintaining access to the campus during the construction. He's aware of the 2 nights of promotion graduation ceremonies, and we won't have jackhammers going on at that time. So that's nice. We are expecting a mid-2023 completion date. So get your swim trunks ready, mid-January of 2023. So it's heated pool. So there you go.
We'll have a pool
There
party.
we go.
We gotta do some kind of ceremony to shovel dirt or have a wading pool. We all wear like rubbery floaties or.
Yeah, we didn't do the golden shovel piece, but we are going to do a big ribbon cutting ceremony. I'm thinking polar plunge if we dare, or something like that. Yeah.
Have like a race with all 5 of the
Yeah.
Could
board
wear,
members racing against each other in the pool.
we could wear,
Certainly doesn't need to be heated. that
Just,
could wear 1920s swimming outfits.
just remember, if the school board's gonna do it, then Greenpeace has to be notified 72 hours in advance.
And I think mid-2023, we're going to throw Mr. Posey in.
Yeah, I'll be glad when that's done. I did attend the bond oversight committee. I think it was for P, but like you said, we're kind of dissolving X and P together. One of the big topics of conversation is for us to make sure that we have this open for public use over the summer. And that was a concern that may not happen. I assured them it is absolutely our intent to do just that. And we're working with the city and our 2+2s, and we'll get a pool committee going here, or actually get the pool meetings together, but that's going to happen. But they asked that I carry that message to tonight. So I'm doing so. I would like to just ask you all, Newman suffered a loss last week with the passing of Kerry McWilliams, and keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. I know he meant a lot to this town, a lot of people in this town, and he loved this school district, and we will miss him certainly. So on a brighter note, I hope you had a chance to check out the art exhibit that the OHS students have hung up in hallways and over here. It's really, really good stuff. I got a chance to walk through this on the way in, but take some time. It's some amazing work. And I know Ms. Conforti and I toured the art room one day and watched them making some sculptures and stuff. And it is, sign up for that tour if you want to. Let me know. I'll get you over there. SBAC update, our state testing. We are in the mop-up stage, just picking up kids that may have missed some tests or what have you for the ELA and the math. I know we still have to do the science, which we're remembering to be a challenging test, as it's been a few years since we've done it. So, we're right about at our 95% participation goals, which you want to be at the state. We have about 20 more days open in the window, so we'll get there. But the school's done a great job getting the students on those tests, and be anxious to get the results really quick, I'm sure. During Classified Appreciation Week on May 18th specifically, we're doing a job shadow. A lot of the administrators have signed up to shadow classified employees that day, to walk in the shoes for a day, if you will. If any board member would like to, please just let Nancy know, and we'll get you scheduled to do some job shadowing. It should be really fun. Also, the next day we're doing a breakfast event where, or some type of a meal event where we share out our experiences from the job shadow. Attended a community LCAP meeting Thursday, maybe. It goes Thursday. good conversation around the room, good attendance, and that'll happen again here in a couple weeks. And then we'll bring the LCAP to the board twice in June. Review and then approval. I want to thank, sorry, I got a long one this month, apparently. I want to thank the fire department, Newman Fire Department. They showed up to the Hunt after school program, and very windy day. You couldn't have, I don't know, other than rain, if you could have written a worse outdoor education condition for them. High wind late in the day, and having to ask kids to stay patient because of how many there were and how many could see the apparatuses at any given time. And they absolutely managed it perfectly. It's just a great afternoon for the kids, and I'll consider myself one of the kids in that situation. And it was really, I really appreciate their coming out and showing the kids what it is to be a firefighter and letting them see the tools and everything. It was a good afternoon. I do want to just, for total disclosure, mention briefly here that we did have to forfeit a football game at Orriston High School in a situation of circumstances led us to find that a student had played about 3 plays at the end of a game against Denair, and the student was ineligible. So we notified the CIF and the Denair administration, and we took care of that, and we self-reported as we should. We got a nice thank you letter from Commissioner Garrison noting our integrity and how we self-reported and appreciated our efforts. And so I appreciate that. And we've rectified the system that didn't catch the ineligibility, and I'm confident that it was a one-off situation. It won't happen again. So we appreciate that. And finally, for my report, I will say Happy Easter, every bunny. There you go.
Well, I was thinking that when we heard the Beyond the Bell report, that was inspiring. If I had any young kids anymore, I'd certainly send them to the program. The problems you're having with the middle school, though, reminded me that, education had a lot of problems with COVID in general. I mean, the nation did, everybody did, but education suffered, or whatever. We had bigger problems than many. I'm optimistic that things like the pool, sports, the clubs that's on campuses, the after school or the Beyond the Bell program will bring the community back to the schools, because public education is the center of almost any community, and particularly a small town like this. Excuse me. I think we have to celebrate the academic successes of people like Alexa and remind our community that this is the path forward. This is why we have public education, and things again like the pool, the sports, the clubs are going to excite people and make them understand why we do this. So I'm optimistic. I do think, though, that we have to acknowledge that for the last couple of years, the community has wondered, what's the role of public education? When we made a lot of people sort of find another place for their kids, and that was tough to do, but that's behind us. I think we learned a lot, and I'm very optimistic that we're on the right path.
Thank you, Mr. Bizarre. Mr. Snodderly?
I have nothing else to add.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace?
I am seeking the directorship for our area of CSBA. Stephen Schuler had been our director. He was from Antigua Unified. This area is San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Merced counties, and the 2 mountain counties, I think that's Calaveras and Tuolumne. There's a director, then there's a dozen of us delegates. That I'm a delegate right now. And Mr. Schuler got a nice promotion. He's now a captain at the Manteca Police Department and had to step back. And so anyway, I am seeking that. I've been nominated for that. But it comes, this district's been very good, very generous in supporting me in my CSBA adventures. And I think I bring stuff back to the district as well. But it does come with some added costs, because I think there's 4 or 6 meetings a year, and some of those are out of town and whatnot. So there's some costs to travel and whatnot that I hope that you'll support us on. Including, I think it was about $400 that we just spent for my delegate meeting. It's, in Sacramento, and hotels are expensive up there. That was for a couple of days. I don't know if we'll use them both or if we'll return one, but we'll see how that goes as the meeting gets closer. Anyway, so that's something new in my life. I hope that adds a little prestige and I bring back a little bit more for the district. And I wanted to make you guys aware that was out there. Give you a chance to throw rocks at it if that's not something you're willing to support.
You've kept us very well informed of all the new things that are happening and keeping us abreast, and I think it's a positive point.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hurst.
I've been very, very ill, and so I don't have the energy to do much, but I'm going to say that I'm resting up for my energy for the end of the year. But I do want to do the escape room.
And myself, I just spent all day today at the high school for portfolios from 8 o'clock until almost 4. Our students are amazing. There's nothing I can say beyond that. I haven't been able to do it. I don't do Zoom very well. In fact, I'm very bad at it. So I didn't volunteer last year, but I've done, I think this is my 5th or 6th year doing it. And they amaze me every time I go, even more so this year. In fact, one of the students, she went to put her presentation on the big board and it didn't come up. And she turned around, gave us some information, said, I'll be right back, ran out the door, got her hotspot, came back in, finished the presentation. The young men, it amazed me. I love the way they dress up. They look so handsome. But just what our high school, our district has done, they're young women and young gentlemen that are respectful, pleasantly pleased at what us adults have given them. And we have a district that's just unbelievable. So, I can't say enough for them. And then I also went to the LCAP. Now, that's fun. You sit in tables, we find out what people would like to have. We have nice papers all around the board, and soon we'll be putting money into that. So we get to spend it next time. But thank you very much. And staff, please, thank you. Enjoy your holiday. Take some R&R. Enjoy that. Let at least 24 hours go without doing any schoolwork. Mr. Posey and Mrs. Fox, please relax at least a little bit. And I'd like to call adjourn this meeting at 7:07. Oh, that sounds like a plane. Okay, thank you. Have a good week.